I think Jordan's scoring titles and Iverson's scoring titles are actually pretty impressive
I think so.
because they played during the slowest era,
Yeah.
actually. So Iverson and Jordan were actually getting these points in
Yeah.
a really slow era.
Yeah.
And even though I'm not a huge fan of Iverson, whatever.
Yeah.
He's really inefficient. He chucks shots just like Kobe does.
Yeah.
But it is impressive. Like he as small as he is,
Yeah.
he plays like 43, 44 minutes a game.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he goes like he plays like all these minutes and he has so much mileage on his body. He's like driving through, getting contact all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty impressive.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree. Like same thing with me. My take on Iverson's the same thing. I don't think he's got the winning type of game that I like, but I appreciate him. I respect and appreciate him. That's the key. Like whenever you're a 6 foot tall guy, they can lead the NBA in scoring at 6 feet tall, and you're playing through injuries all the time, and it's during the tougher time of the NBA when it's more physical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my hat's off to a guy that can do that, right? Regardless of the NBA when it's more physical. I mean, my hat's off to a guy that can do that, right? Regardless of whether I think you can anchor a championship team or not, regardless of that, I still respect the fact that you can do that 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't do that at 6 feet tall. I'm only 5'9". But even if you give me a few more inches, I don't think I'll lead the league in the NBA in scoring, even if I'm that 6 feet tall.
Yeah, and you talk about like he led the league in scoring in 1999. It was like the slowest. I think that's the slowest season ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah. Exactly.
Hakeem, Shaq, Robinson, like guys
Exactly.
like that.
Like if you make me 6'11", sure I can do everything that KG does. But if you make me 6 feet tall, I can't do what Iverson does.
Yeah.
That's the difference there. Because 6 feet tall in the NBA, you must be super skilled, and that's another level.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I respect for Chris Paul, who's also 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
Iverson's like Iverson's less than 6 feet, like 5'10" or 5'11".
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas, like small dudes, very tough.
Yeah. Of course, man. And that's the reason why I keep also saying that in the NBA, anybody who plays guard, whether it's shooting guard or point guard, is normally super, super skilled in the NBA. And it's just a matter of whether they get the opportunity the green light to shoot as much as they want.
Yeah, well, that's also why. But I think it's also kind of unfair sometimes too, because people know that people know the fact that guards are smaller, so they have to be more skilled. But in the converse, sometimes I think this leads to a lot of big men getting overlooked, like Tim Duncan, right?
Yep.
Tim Duncan, I think one of the big reasons he's underlooked, and Kareem sometimes as well, Moses Malone, right? I think and Hakeem as well, because I think a lot of these guys, reasons why they're overlooked sometimes because people think they're big men. So like, they're big men, so they don't need as yeah.
I have the entire '92 Olympics games, every single
Well,
one.
I read the book,
Yeah.
the Dream Team book, yeah.
Yeah, and I have. So if you ever want to watch it though, I have every single game from the Olympics, original broadcast with all the original commercials, and I also even have. Not only do I have the Olympic games in '92, every single one, I have all the pre-Olympic warm-up games too, every single one that they played in Portland. So in Portland, they actually played a lot of friendly games against other international teams pre-Olympics. So I have,
Jordan Magic, man.
But the problem is Bird already lost it by then. That's the problem. Because Bird by that time barely played. Like his back was
Yeah.
And then Magic was already kind of older already by that time.
Magic was still good.
He's pretty good. Of course, he didn't play halfway though through the tournament. Yeah, because he got injured. Bird literally was good.
Bird was there because of the legacy thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Bird didn't even want to play because he said he was done. But then they just wanted him there because obviously for the name.
Yeah.
So that's where I have. If they're all in their primes, yeah, of course this is the greatest team ever. But unfortunately, Bird wasn't in his prime at all, not even close.
And then '96 had Hakeem like Isaiah, right?
Yep.
So they kept Isaiah off the team.
Yep. And it wasn't just Jordan though. Everybody on the team didn't want like Isaiah. Yeah. Malone hated him. Pippen hated his guts.
Yeah. So it's not.
Yeah. Magic had issues with him too because at that point, they were really good friends before. But then when Magic got HIV, Magic actually heard rumors saying that Isaiah was actually talking bad about him behind his back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Bird really hated him because they had the Ira rivalry too. So like
exactly.
Bird and Jordan both hated him.
Yeah.
So
nobody wanted him on.
So it's really like that's Isaiah's own doing actually.
Yeah, exactly. he's clearly the better player over Stockton. It's not even close between these two guys. Like different levels. But then the thing is, no one wanted Isaiah. So the team chemistry was more important than having Isaiah.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Stockton probably would have been the second. Best. Maybe do you think Stockton was better than Peyton and Mark Price
Hard to say. I would say about
in '92?
in my opinion, I think at their very best, Mark Price, in my opinion, is actually a better player at his very best.
What about in '92 though?
I think Mark Price is a better player. I would say
Than Stockton?
I think so, but I think in terms of just a little bit more talent offensively,
Interesting.
a little more talent. That's something that most people don't see because Stockton had the benefit of a Malone pick and roll and a great coach in Jerry Sloan, where he kept running these really easy plays.
Yep.
But the problem is the difference between two of them is Stockton was never called upon. Stockton was never called upon to have that much burden on him. To actually like, oh, the team has nothing, and then Stockton has to create something out of nothing for his team. He always had a pick and roll to fall back on, or he can feed the post to Malone. And he always had that. But there were so many times on that Cavs team, they had a very good all-around team, but the whole offense still had to go through Mark Price. And he always had to create stuff out of nothing, like what Steve Nash had to do pretty much sometimes.
Yep.
And then he would sometimes not even get a pick, and the guy would just like use his crossovers to break the defender down, get into the paint, and Mark Price was actually a lot quicker than Stockton was. And Price was actually better on the crossover. So Mark Price would cross people over, even Pippen. Like Pippen was trying to guard the perimeter, and Pippen had to keep backing off because Mark Price was so quick. And then after that, Price was equally good driving to the basket or pulling up for a three-point shot off the dribble. So I still remember Pippen was trying to guard him, and Pippen had to back up because Mark Price was so fast and had such a great crossover and ball handling. Then Pippen just backed up 2 more feet. Price stopped. I never seen Stockton do that on Scottie Pippen. Like Stockton always had the pick and roll to fall back on, and Malone to fall back on. Price didn't have that benefit, and I think that's where I think Price has a little bit better. It's kind of like the Malone versus Barkley thing, and I think Barkley just had that little bit more than Malone, and I think Price just had a little bit more than
Malone and Stockton just had incredible longevity.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they had.
So like I think the same thing. I think Price just had a little bit more than Stockton. However, Stockton had the longevity, and that's really the difference between these two.
Okay, what about also 92? Peyton, KJ, Tim Hardaway. Do you think they're better than Stockton?
I think they're pretty close, man. I mean, Tim Hardaway was a lot more talented in terms of his crossover and his one-on-one skills. He's more unstoppable one-on-one, but he's less of a basketball IQ guy, so he's less smart than Stockton is. Defensively, Tim Hardaway wasn't really that great either. He was just about average. But then his crossover is one of the greatest ever in NBA history.
Yep.
Literally unstoppable on the dribble. But so many 90s point guards were unstoppable on the dribble. Eric Strickland, Tim Hardaway, even Penny was quite unstoppable on the dribble. I think Gary Payton was his defense and his size. 6'4", great defense for one-on-one defense though.
Yep.
But his offense was pretty overrated in my opinion, and I think also his basketball IQ was pretty overrated in my opinion. So how do you say it? Peyton is bigger, better defender than Stockton, but Stockton is a smarter, higher basketball IQ player and better passer than Peyton. So I think they're about a wash. They're about equal in my opinion. And then I think...
But Kevin Johnson?
Kevin Johnson's a unique one. Pre-injury Kevin Johnson was really unique because the guy was just so dominant off the dribble, getting into the paint, finishing in the paint, dunking over people too. I mean, he's like Westbrook with more skill.
Yep.
He's like Westbrook, but then not as big, but then more skilled. More skilled on the dribble, much better then more skilled. More skilled on the dribble, much better crossover. They can just get by anybody. I think before the injury, Kevin Johnson might be better than all these guys. Like better than Stockton and everybody.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. 92, you could have made an argument for Kevin Johnson.
I think so. Yeah. Kevin Johnson was really, really good. And then, like I always mentioned, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf was very good, but then he got blackbooked after he wouldn't stand up for the national anthem. Because because of the oppression and racism in the U.S. But the guy was like one of the most amazing point guard scorers I've ever seen. Well, he's like hybrid point guard, shooting guard, small guy, but totally skilled and flawless almost the way he plays. Mookie Blaylock was another guy that I've always really loved.
Not much of a scorer though. It's more like a defender.
But he can actually still shoot the three. If he's open, so that's what makes him really valuable. If you even put him on a team like say the Dream Team, the guy is actually a pretty good floor general, and then he's a really, really great defender, and he can hit the 3-point shot. He can hit the 3-point shot spot up. You have all these great players around you already. Now just throw him in as your energy high defensive guy that shares the ball. He can still hit the open shot. I mean, I think in a way at least he'll add a bit more than Stockton does, because Stockton wasn't as good of a defender as Mookie Blaylock was, especially one-on-one. Like he's not even close. And then Stockton in terms of like just spreading, like sharing.
But he was a better passer, right?
He's a slightly better passer. Yeah, he's a more steady passer. However, the thing is, they didn't need that because on Dream Team 1, everyone could pass. Even the centers were great passers on Dream Team 1.
Yeah.
If you watch, the ball was like singing. The ball was like just moving like non-stop between everybody. Centers were passing to power forwards were passing to shooting guards passing back to the point guards. Like everyone has such high IQ, and then everyone's moving without the ball.